Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. We're going to take on today a Daiwa 250X. It looks like it's seen its share of use. It certainly has. It's missing an awful lot of the paint, but it's been maintained. And you can just see that cranks free and easy, and nothing apparently mechanically is wrong with it. It's just in for an annual maintenance. So some folks would say, well, gee, why should I go and spend the money to do the maintenance when it's running like this? You don't know what's lurking beneath, so it's always a good idea to check it out. And we're coming to the end of the season up here in the Northeast, and the fellow brought this one by. And many of you probably are looking at this thing and thinking, geez, I've seen him do the 4000C, not much difference between the reels. I've seen him do the 2500, not much difference. Well, I'm going to do this one because folks are limiting their searches on YouTube. So if they don't see a 250X, they bypass it all. They don't know to look for the 2500 or 2600 or 4000C and figure out that they're all pretty much the same. This one actually does look like the 4000C. It's got an awful lot of paint loss on it. Some people ask me, should they repaint the reel? It's all a matter of time and effort and money. If you want to go ahead and make this reel pretty, go right ahead. It's not going to catch any more fish if it looks fancy. But if you want to go ahead and do that, then I would recommend taking a paint stripper, pulling this all down till you get to the base metal like this, and go ahead and painting it. For the purposes of the general use, if you don't mind the way it looks, as long as it catches fish, then go ahead and just tune it up. So this one's a little bit different than the others. This one has a screw handle, so it doesn't have the through that you would see on the 4000C. You can tell that by the back button here. Most of the time, if you're turning a reel and that back button is not moving, it generally means that you have a threaded handle going through the main gear. But just be careful. Sometimes if you don't know the reel, take that button off, because there are examples where the button is hiding a screw for a through handle. So if you're doing this and you're turning and it's not moving, check behind that button if you're not sure. A couple of words as we get started here. I always start by taking the side plate off. In this case, the side plate does not go under the rotor. It stops short. I call these half side plates. Sometimes that rotor will have a lip, and the side plate will go through that lip, at which point you would have to remove the rotor first. But we're not going to do that here. Just going to work to get the 3 side plate screws off. You'll notice as we're doing this that I have a protective glove on my hand just to keep the junk off of it. And this reel's got some junk on it, right? Whether it's chip paint or some grease that's come through the case, or maybe even old fish scales or something, I don't know. But I like to keep my non-working hand as clean as possible, and to do that I wear that protective glove. Good time to tell you as well that I like to take pictures along the way so that I know the sequence of the pieces and parts that I've taken off, and I can readily put them back together. You don't see a camera here, but it's the video that I'm taking that actually would reference me to that. I took the 3 side plate screws off. I've left them down on my table just to make sure that they're all the same size. They are all the same size, so with that I can put that into my parts tray. Parts tray just happens to be the bottom of a plastic milk jug, but I would recommend that you use a parts tray for all of your pieces and parts. That way you know where to find them when you go to put them back. I've had too many examples where I've taken the parts, put them on my workbench, and then knocked them off and have been in trouble trying to find them. Okay, this is the main gear assembly. We have a cross wind that comes off the back of this. You can tell that by the way that the post is set here. We have to take this spool shaft off in order to remove the main gear, and that is held in place by a screw on the bottom of the cross wind block. So we're going to go ahead and pull that. Put that into my parts tray. With that removed, I can pull the spool assembly out. I don't have to remove the shaft from the spool in order to do that. I'll remove the shaft later because we're going to go ahead and make sure that the drags are serviceable. Once that's pulled out, we can take the main gear out, it needs cleaning. And we saw that it's running nice and smooth. I'm going to take the crosswind block and the crosswind gear off, and you can see how heavy duty the construction of this thing is. And we want to watch it here. There's a spring on the override for the anti-reverse. Just make sure that that stays intact. Okay, there's just a little bit of cleaning to be done on the inside here. As we noted, this was free and turning free and easily, so we're just going to go ahead and just take some of the old grease off here and put some new grease in its place. There really isn't much, so this reel has been maintained. I know the customer, he's brought it in before, so it's not as though I'm taking any short steps here or cheating the repair. I'm just going to go ahead and do this. I would say that this was not in on an annual service, but it's been here before. And always good to see a friend come back. And as he would say, when I talked to him about the condition of it, he would tell me the fish don't care. He still catches plenty of fish on it, which is why it's still in service. Okay, just going to do the same thing here. We're going to get that dried grease off of the back of the crosswind gear. And that's just settled there, so we're going to make sure that it gets the proper grease, the new grease going back in. Same thing with the crosswind block. So this is a one ball bearing reel. It's got bushings on both sides of the main gear. You saw on the 4000C that was a 2-ball bearing reel. So there are some differences between the construction of these reels, but for the most part they're both very dependable reels that'll last a long time with the proper maintenance. Okay, a little bit of blue grease onto the back of the crosswind block and the into the channel there. Don't go crazy with it. We're going to do the same thing here with the crosswind gear. While I'm doing that, I'm checking the teeth on the crosswind gear to make sure that all of those teeth are in place, not chipped, cracked, or broken. They are doing just fine. Thank you very much. And a little bit on the post there. So I can reset this crosswind gear in there. I'm going to grab that bushing. I want to make sure that gets seated. I think on the 4000C I didn't have that seated very well and kind of fooled around a little bit with it. Okay, I want to get this dried grease off the back of the main gear now, and I'm just using a flat-bladed screwdriver to do that. Doesn't take much. If this was really stubborn stuff, you could hit it with a general purpose degreaser and get it off that way. I just don't like to leave old grease on there, even though it's not in the way of the spinning mechanism. And I don't like it because it attracts and holds contaminants. So if there was some sand or something that got into the reel, that grease is a wonderful trap just for that. So just like to clean it up. And then I'll just go ahead and put a little bit of the grease onto the teeth. Now, you don't have to make sure that the grease gets into every tooth. That's going to work its way around as we put grease onto the main. I'm just going to put a little bit of blue grease onto the back of the shaft here. And the same goes for the other side of the bushing here. Just trying to work that bushing off at the moment. I don't have the hand strength to pull out that extra little piece, so I'm just going to grab it and put it back in here. Okay, this has an anti-reverse toggle that needs a little bit of oil to it. That's going to run on the outside here of the main gear. This is the anti-reverse ratchet. And what I like to do when I reset these reels is I like to make sure that it's always in the off position, because that way it loads easier. For right now, I'm just using a general purpose reel grease. I use a reel oil, Reel X. Just a couple of drops on there and just make sure that that continues to stay as it is. Okay, now we're going to go up top. You'll notice that this has a little bit of wobble in it, and that's because the nut is probably a little bit loose. We'll go take care of that now. Just have to find the right wrench to do it. Okay. I keep every wrench, or basically every size of wrench, metric and SAE, in my basket there, just so that I have it easily at hand as I go about trying to take these reels apart. It's just a convenience thing. We're going to pull the rotor off now. We have another bushing, so this has got 0 ball bearings in it. That's a brass bushing there on the main gear. If we wanted to pull that main gear out, we can simply pull these 2 screws. The bushing will come out with it. I have seen this upgraded where people have pulled that bushing and replaced it with a bearing. In this case, the play in the shaft is because that bushing is a little bit worn. I don't know if you can see the movement there, but we're just going to let that be, and I'm just going to throw a little bit of oil on there just to keep that lubricated. This reel is not worth adding any money to, but it is a solid performer that drags fish in all day and night. So we'll just make sure that we can keep it going as long as we can, and the way to do that is simply to put some oil on that pinion gear there. And we're just ready for some reassembly on the bottom side of this, and then we'll go up top there and make sure that the drags are serviced as well. So I'm just going to grab the wrench and tighten that down as best we can. Some reels have a set screw, this one does not. We're going to go ahead then, once we did that, we'll put the crosswind block in. And we can seat the main gear. Now I'm going to take that shaft off, and the shaft is only held on now by the drag knob. The reason why I'm going to do this is I want to seat the shaft before I go any further. The shaft has some junk on it, so I'm going to use a steel wool to make sure that that gets all the grit and grime off of it. Just a light coating of the blue grease. In this case, that blue grease is a Penn Reels Universal grease. It doesn't matter what manufacturer's reel grease, basically. There's plenty of it out there, plenty of aftermarket greases. Just make sure you're using a reel grease when you go about the reassembly of your reel. Don't go using automotive products or things like that. They tend to get in the way and be the wrong grease and bog down the performance of the reel. Okay, just wanted to reset that. So I'm having a little bit of a reset issue here. The crosswind block came off. It kind of got kind of cross at angles. We're okay now. Now we can come back in with the spool shaft. Seat the spool shaft, line up that hole there. And we can go to my parts bucket for the screw that holds that in place. Grab the Phillips head screwdriver. So I want to use a centering pin here. I don't have that hole straight lined up. I just want to use a little centering pin to do that. And this time it shouldn't fall into the case. We're set there. Okay, we can reinstall the case now. And we'll give it a spin just to make sure that it's spinning properly. Come back and do the 3 screws here. So these reels can be found relatively cheap, either on an online auction like an eBay site or something, or tag sales and the like. Because of the age, the technology, like I said, it's a solid technology. There's 0 ball bearings in it, and that does cause slop as we saw in that rotor there, but not enough that it's going to speak for retiring the reel. It's a solid metal case. It's bulletproof in that regard. Cosmetically, you can see the wear. If you were to say what's the shortcomings on a reel like this, it's the cosmetics. But again, the technology for probably a 20-year-old reel is that it's endured. And sometimes simpler is better in that regard. And for that, we'll make sure that we're working, which we are. I'm going to go ahead and take the handle assembly then and tighten that back up. And this was turning free and easy to begin with, so we wouldn't expect any problems with it being free and easy after this. I'll put a drop of oil onto each side of the bail assembly. And let's just go up top and finish this by looking at the drags. Based on what I saw before, the drags should be in pretty good shape. We take that clip out of the center of that just holds the drag assembly in place right into the parts basket. Then we should have a series of Teflon washers here, which we do, and a felt washer down below, which just helps seat the drags into the spool. Put that one right back in. Checking the spool just to make sure that there's no accumulated dirt. This always takes the brunt of the waters and that from the spinning. These Teflon washers are in fine shape. So it goes, you start with the felt washer, and then you have a round washer, then the Teflon, an eared washer, Teflon, and the final metal one. So that's the way we're going to go put them back. Just making sure that they're clean. The Teflon washers do not require any lubrication. They just need to be clean because they're kind of a semi-plastic. It's kind of self-lubricating as it is. Okay, then we're just going to take that spring and we'll put that into the groove of the spool. And this is a spring, so make sure that as you're doing this, you keep your finger on it so that it doesn't shoot off into outer space somewhere. And you just want to make sure that it seats into the grooves. In this case, this one side fell a little low. Now we're into the groove. Those drag washers are clean. Spool on, drag washer on. And that's it. So that's a Daiwa 250X, no ball bearing reel, ready to go fishing, spinning like a champ. A little bit of play in that rotor, but not terrible. And this one can go catch an awful lot of fish before it goes to retirement. So I hope you learned a little bit from the video. I certainly hope you learned how to service this. If you have one in your closet, take it out. Let it go fishing. Go fix it up, tune it up, and take it fishing, because that's what these things are meant to do. So again, the fish aren't caring that there's some paint loss up on the reel above it. You shouldn't care either. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, please like it. If you want to see more, please subscribe to my channel. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching.